safety as we travel.
I Spy, Tuesday at 8:30. Good afternoon, this is HTV. The time now is 4:25.
Good afternoon. Japan's Emperor Akihito will arrive in Britain in a few hours' time on a state visit which looks to be overshadowed by recriminations over Japan's treatment of prisoners of war. Some British veterans are planning protests at his public appearances as part of their campaign for compensation and a full apology. Our diplomatic editor, Robert Moore, reports.
The Emperor of Japan has today been wrapping up his state visit to Portugal before flying into Britain tonight. It is all about marking the new relationship between Japan and the West, but in London tomorrow there will be sharp reminders of the past. Many former British POWs held and tortured by their Japanese captors are demanding a fuller apology and compensation, saying Tokyo has never properly atoned for its crimes. Like in 1971, when Emperor Hirohito was watched in silence while on a state visit, so his son Akihito will be met by symbolic protests from war veterans.
We have to bring to the notice of the Japanese government the deep feeling we still have about their failure to apologise properly and to pay compensation.
The demonstration will take place here at lunchtime tomorrow. Former POWs whistling and turning their back on the Emperor in a calculated insult as his horse-drawn carriage passes down the Mall. The Queen has said she understands the strong feelings involved and will not be embarrassed by the protests. Other veterans, though, have said now is the time to look forward, noting that Emperor Akihito was only a boy during the war and that Britain's relationship with Japan has been utterly transformed. Robert Moore, ITN, Central London.
The government made clear again today that the IRA must decommission its weapons as part of the Good Friday Agreement. But any hopes that the process could begin before June appeared to be dashed by Sinn Féin. Hal Jones reports from Belfast.
These are just some of the guns seized from the IRA in recent years. But according to one leading member of Sinn Féin, the IRA will not voluntarily hand in any weapons this side of the election for the new Northern Ireland Assembly.
There's a singular focus on the weapons in the hands of the IRA. There are weapons in the hands of a number of organisations, including the armed forces of the British government, which are here in our streets.
The government has warned Sinn Féin that decommissioning weapons is an indispensable part of the Good Friday peace plan. The Northern Ireland Minister, Paul Murphy, said today that the handing in of weapons could simply not be ignored. The man whose job it will be to take charge of decommissioning admits he can't dictate to the paramilitaries.
We don't have control of the agenda. We can make proposals, and we will. We want to insist that people understand this is no form of surrender, but ultimately it's up to those who have the guns to make the motion to start disarming them.
It's just one issue facing the Prime Minister as he prepares for another trip to the province. Mr Blair is expected to visit Northern Ireland within the next fortnight, a visit which no doubt is intended to put fresh impetus into what will be a long and bitterly fought election campaign. Howell Jones, ITN, Belfast.
A 9-hour plane hijack has been brought to an end in Pakistan. All 29 passengers were released unharmed after a brief shootout in which commandos overpowered 3 hijackers. They're thought to have been trying to get more money for their home region in Pakistan. Pro-democracy campaigners are celebrating sweeping wins today in Hong Kong's first elections under Chinese rule. They won 15 of the 20 seats being contested in the Legislative Assembly and say it's a clear signal to China to speed up democratic change. And Indonesia's new President Habibie announced a series of reforms today aimed at satisfying the demands of pro-democracy groups. He promised to hold parliamentary elections within a year and ordered the release of 2 prominent political prisoners. European governments agreed a new code of conduct on selling arms to suspect or unstable regimes today. The Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, said the agreement broke new ground, although it won't be legally binding. Here's our political correspondent, Lauren Taylor.
Robin Cook and his 14 European Union counterparts took less than an hour to agree on the new code for arms sales. Although it's not legally binding, it's designed to prevent arms exports to nations that might use them for aggression against other states or internal repression, and it aims to discourage EU nations from undercutting each other with arms sales.
For the first time, it provides a mechanism by which a country
which has decided not to permit an arms export, can notify all other member states of its decision.
But back here, the Conservatives have criticised the code.
This agreement makes matters worse. It requires countries to notify other countries when they refuse a licence to sell arms. It presents these other countries with those orders on a plate.
Mr Cook has denied that the agreement would have affected the recent Arms to Africa affair, as no export licence had been granted in that case. There was more confusion on that issue today when the UN declared it had not been illegal for Sandline to supply weapons to the peacekeeping force in Sierra Leone. Lauren Taylor, ITN.
Golf and Scotland's Colin Montgomerie and Dean Robertson are leading the battle for the PGA Championship at Wentworth. Robertson is one of 3 joint leaders on 12 under, along with Sweden's Patrick Schuland.
8 holes left unless we go into...
Colin Montgomerie, who was leading overnight, came back into contention after this glorious putt. He's also 12 under. Football and the England squad flew out to Spain today for their final World Cup preparations. They're heading for their base camp at La Manga, where they'll train for their last 2 friendlies against Morocco on Wednesday and Belgium on Friday. And this afternoon's crucial First Division playoff is still going on at Wembley between Charlton and Sunderland. A short time ago, Sunderland were leading 2-1. Here's Will Walden.
For many of the 80,000 here, it was their cup final. Sunderland, once giants of English football, against tiny Charlton Athletic, and all for the right to play Premiership football next season. And early on at least, inexperience showed. Charlton playing casual football in their own penalty area before managing to scramble the danger clear. If Sunderland lose today, they'll have a Sunderland supporter to blame. Clive Mendonca's brilliant goal put Charlton ahead. Mendonca's family live in Sunderland. He's a lifelong fan. Before the break, a game that was rapidly losing any semblance of defence nearly brought Sunderland an equaliser. But Lee Clark couldn't keep the ball down. Into the second half, and from an early corner, a stunning goal. Niall Quinn with Sunderland's equaliser. Suddenly only one team was playing decent football. 7 minutes after the equaliser, Kevin Phillips put Sunderland ahead. With 15 minutes to go, Sunderland are holding on and look Premiership bound. Will Walden, ITN Sport.
That's all from ITN for now. I'll be back with the next news at 10:30. Goodbye.
Good evening. High pressure and warm southerly winds, what most of us would like to see, but what we have for tomorrow is low pressure and cold northerly winds. The low pressure out to the east, as you see, weather fronts moving down from the north, and cold north winds coming to Scotland tomorrow, and really that's going to set the pattern for the week. Even by Friday, low pressure is still the main feature on the chart, so it is going to be showery over the next few days, but there'll be sunny spells around as well. As far as tonight's concerned, well, there have been showers around today, of course. Still a few showers around overnight tonight. There's another weather front coming across Scotland into Northern Ireland by the end of the night, and maybe 1 or 2 longer spells of rain on that front. To the north of it, some clearer spells, but cold there, down to 4 degrees. Further south, just light bits of showery rain in places below 9. That's nearer 48. And then tomorrow, we'll have some clearer weather coming along behind this weather front, but as it comes south into across northern England, into North Wales and the Midlands, it will bring some showery outbreaks of rain further south. The best of the weather tomorrow, probably in the southern part of Scotland and Northern Ireland. To the far north, showery yet again, and the winds for tomorrow are going to make it feel quite cold, especially in the north,